Over the last 50 years, women have gained momentum in the workforce. They are out in the communities, they are working, and they are bringing home a paycheck. But for some families, this paycheck is not enough to make a real difference. In New Bedford and Fall River, two post-industrial cities, women's economic independence is a frequently debated topic. According to recent data, 1/3 of New Bedford families are headed by a single family, and of those families, 38% live in poverty. Even while working full-time, poverty still persists for these families. The Bristol County Commission on the Status of Women aims to help solve the women's economic crisis by bringing these issues to the discussion table and being the voice for South Coast women.
Hello, and welcome to the Voice of South Coast Women. I'm Gail Fortes, your host, and today we're going to be talking about women's economic independence. And I have three guests that I would love for them to introduce themselves, and we can talk about this issue. First, we have Val Bassett from the Women's Fund.
Hi, I'm Val Bassett from the Women's Fund of Southeastern Massachusetts, and supporting women's economic independence is at the heart of our mission. We raise funds to invest in solutions for women to be able to earn a living wage, and we identify a collaborative agenda for what are the best strategies to do that.
Okay, and Jean Fox from the Bristol County Commission on the Status of Women.
Thanks, Gail. Yes, Jean Fox, Bristol County Commission on the Status of Women. We've been around since 2009. Through legislation, we were established to represent all the cities and towns in Bristol County to advocate for women. And that advocacy takes many forms, one of which is a collaborative approach where we work with you at the YWCA, we work with Val at the Women's Fund, and we work with our constituencies and our legislators. Our goal is to effect real and lasting policy change for women in Bristol County.
And our last guest is Stormi Monteriro.
I am Stormi Monteriro. I am a Women's Policy and Advocacy Representative for the Women's Fund. I am an employee of the YWCA, Southeastern Massachusetts, and a Lifework participant and a student at UMass Dartmouth. And I have been lucky enough to network and work with these sister agencies to improve my own economic status and the women around me.
So we hear on a daily basis how important women's economic independence is. So what exactly is economical independence for women?
I would say self-sufficiency, not needing any type of assistance, being able to pay for childcare outright, affording food, housing, a car payment, anything that just, just a level of income that a woman can be independent where she doesn't need any type of assistance, which is actually starting to decrease. There's more women, more families out there that need assistance as jobs are not paying as well, and there's a lot of changes happening.
Yeah, I would add to what Stormi said. I mean, that's exactly right, the way we think about it. At the Women's Fund, and a lot of folks thinking about economic mobility and economic independence, is that it's really a livable wage. So what does a woman need to earn and to be able to support herself and her family? And there are folks who have done research to figure out what is that for different regions. So we know in the South Coast region, let's say New Bedford, Fall River, what that means if you have a family with one head of household, let's say a woman head of household, and two children, she would need to earn between $25 and $30 an hour, and roughly between $54,000 and $60,000 a year to be able to fully support that family's costs, housing, childcare, food, education, transportation, etc. So economic independence could be true for a two-family household. If you have two parents, what does that household need to earn collectively so that they can afford all the necessities of life? But we also talk about livable wage for an individual head of household.
Okay,
Right.
Jean, anything to add to that?
Yeah, a little bit. We also know, as Val said, what people need to earn to be able to be self-sufficient and economically independent. On top of that, we live in a region that unfortunately, statistically, is below most thresholds. We're below the average state per capita income. We have lower educational attainment rates, and wages typically lag behind the rest of the state, and particularly for women. It's, that is a real situation. We, as different organizations and individuals, are addressing this, but the reality is we have some real problems with closing that gap. And that's definitely a focus of what we're trying to do to get that to that economic independence.
Okay, so you listed some of the data points that relate to how we can achieve economic independence. So what are some of the challenges? You said, Val, it's about $25 an hour for a woman to be able to be economically self-sufficient with her family. What jobs are out there in the South Coast that women can achieve to make that? Because it seems like a lot. We know that minimum wage is increasing and still has a long way to go to make $25 an hour. So what are some of the barriers to that?
Well, I think one, you described it, is minimum wage itself is low for what we need for a family or an individual to work to be self-sufficient. Another one is really getting women and girls on a path to actual careers that will earn that much. And there are those jobs. They're not enough in this region, but they are there. So we need to work on one side to build more of those jobs and job pathways, and on the other side to make sure women are going into those paths. I'd say the biggest kind of problem is that society is still structured around the idea that a woman does all the caretaking for home and children and family, and a husband goes out and is the breadwinner. When we know that's not the reality. We have two working parents. We have lots of, about 40% of households in the region and the big cities are headed by single moms at all income levels. And so we know that, to deal with that reality, we need to make some social changes. So you have women not necessarily choosing paths that are earning as much as they need to. You also have the wage gap. So men and women in the same job are earning different amounts. So we've got to close the wage gap and pass equal pay legislation and also do other efforts to close that gap. We've got to provide for things like affordable child care. Right now it's a very piecemeal system. We leave it to individual women and families to figure out. But one of the things we've identified in our task force on pathways to a living wage is the need for universal pre-kindergarten, for example. So child care is a barrier. Opportunities in non-traditional careers, that's a barrier because we know that, for example, the trades, union jobs are higher paying. We know that STEM jobs are higher paying. So we want to track girls and women into those fields. We also want to raise the wages in the other fields and make sure that there's comparable pay for comparable work. So traditionally female caregiving type of work is more respected and paid fairly.
Thank you. Jean, anything to
Well,
add?
I think that you pretty much covered it. I was going to really focus on the wage gap, on traditional career paths, being the women's career paths typically are lower paying than men's. So STEM is definitely a good field. The unions are a good pathway, so maybe apprenticeships. We should see more apprenticeships, more women in apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships. The early education for all, absolutely critical, and then getting rid of that bias that you're the woman, you're the caregiver, you don't deserve as much money, it's the man. I would say those are the key components that we need to overcome, and we're making good progress because we're definitely, this equal pay bill has gotten terrific traction in Boston. Now we need to keep the pressure on. We're very, very close. This closes a gap. Remember, 1945 was when we decided there'd be equal pay for equal work in Massachusetts, and we are still plugging away. We're not there because we don't have the transparency that the new legislation will implement. So when you go into a job, if you've made X and the guy next to you made X plus, you don't reveal that you only made X.
Right.
Because that starts you at a lower bar and that perpetuates itself. So I would say all of you nailed all of them, Val, and for us as a region, we need to come together and continue advocating so that we can make the changes.
I agree.
Right. So we know that education is vital and crucial, to this issue. So with the wage gap, we know that women are making, that's Caucasian women are making 78 cents to the dollar. Women of color are making a lot less. So what can we do to educate our girls and our young women so that they can understand exactly what the wage gap is and what they can do to advocate for themselves to, improve upon that?
I would say outreach. definitely, with the Girls Exclusive, they had a chance at the YWCA to meet with congressmen and different representatives from our state. It's definitely education is key. These girls definitely need outreach at a young age, somebody to talk to them, advocate, let them know what their rights are, and give them a sense of awareness of what's going on in their economy and how important education is, that they can make a difference, that they are the future. They don't, the past doesn't have to define them, that education is everything, that this will help the wage gap, or this will help economic improvement school.
They are, UMass and BCC, well, the Connect partnership is working hard to bring girls on campus to demystify the college experience and to show them what their potential future could hold should they stay the course throughout middle school and high school. So I would suggest that we need to do a little bit more in our middle schools and maybe even elementary schools to let women and girls, and particularly those women and girls of color, understand that they need to stay the course. This is their ticket, and there are supports. Once we've delivered that message loud and clear, you're going to see a paradigm shift, I believe. But the message isn't out there yet.
I think Jean makes a great point around middle school, because we know that that's a key time when girls tend to lose confidence and start feeling like they can't do math and science or be as athletic. So I do agree that focusing on leadership development and building those skills to help girls get through that kind of difficult passageway and stay confident and feeling like they have lots of possibilities and opportunities as they grow. I also think support is key. You both mentioned support, and we know that that girls and young women and women often do well when they have kind of a social network and a support network to see them through. And I just want to mention the program that Stormi is in is the main investment of the Women's Fund to help women get educational success and get on a path to a living wage job, and that's the Lifework project. And Stormi, you're a great example of succeeding in that program, where women at Bristol Community College, many single moms, are really working to hit economic independence through getting an education and getting on a good path. They have mentors. You all set goals, and when they accomplish goals, they can get incentives. And really, we try to encircle them with a supportive network of women and people who can help them in their journey forward. So I think that, in addition to the social supports like childcare, we need to provide relationship supports and create, kind of raise the expectations for what's possible.
So I am a Lifework participant, and it actually started, I was a student at BCC, and I was there about 1.5 years. And Amy Martin, who works in the financial aid department, she actually referred me to Lifework. And I met with Manuela Rosa at Lifework the last semester at BCC, and they were so amazing. They were so supportive. They networked with different agencies that assisted, single moms in the area, such as, the Women's Fund. Well, they come from the Women's Fund, YWCA, and many other agencies, and it just opened so many doors. I never would have become a women's policy and advocacy representative or got to meet Gail if it wasn't for Lifework. So they definitely, and they have these weekly meetings, different professionals in the area gives us an insight, such as maybe financial advisement or, the Women's Center. It just gives women an insight to what opportunities are out there, what services are out there. And it's been, it's a great program, and I would suggest anybody who's going to BCC, that's, maybe not necessarily a single mom, but, a woman that's, married or not, or whatever, she can go in and seek services from Lifework.
And how long is the program? at Life Force?
It's a 3-year pilot, but I'm hoping that
We all are.
it goes on. I think it will.
It's been very successful. We really see great outcomes. I mean, Stormi herself is now at UMass Dartmouth, along
that's
with
great.
2 other Lifework participants. So women are really successfully, completing their associate's degree, getting great grades. A lot of women on Dean's List, some women in the honors program, and then going on to continue their education, getting into competitive programs like nursing and occupational therapy. And but they often need support for transportation, books,
Right.
And different kinds of support that other women might get from their family, or sort of their parents' money. So we believe that support should be available to every woman who is trying to advance her education and become economically independent.
And you're right, women thrive with that kind of support in place. We do.
Absolutely,
We're not the same as everybody else. We need those supports. And I will say, Lifework has garnered a great deal of attention on Beacon Hill. The state reps and the senators are quite impressed with the outcomes. They've attended the graduations. They've been issued citations to the successful participants, and there are many now. So this is good. This is a template for success that could be replicated in many places.
Yeah, like I said, it opened up many doors, and over the summer I had an internship at the YWCA, and as a women's policy and advocacy representative for the Women's Fund, thank you, Gail and Val. And I mean, we met with legislators, something I never thought that I would do, and we got to, Jean Fox had joined us, at the State House for equal pay, and it's just been a great experience. I thank you, and I think you guys are a great influence on women. There's women that are successful, and you guys just give us good insight and a shoulder if we need one.
Yeah, anytime.
No, you inspire us.
You do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We always need more women to help support one another and to be a mentor. So there'll be information at the end of the show. So if you want to join us, we'd be happy to do that. So Val, you mentioned a little bit about the task force that's going on. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the task force is and what they're doing and what's coming up soon?
Yes, absolutely. So as I said, part of our role is really to convene community leaders, different organizations, and say together, what are key women's needs and how can we work together to make it easier for more women to have economic independence. So after last year's leadership breakfast, and our theme was on living wage for women, we convened a group of about 50 folks from different organizations, a cross-sector group, educators, elected officials, nonprofit leaders working in different fields, foundations. And over 9 months we've been studying, and you're all part of it, so you know this process. We've been studying different issues, what's important in the area of child care and early education. What about housing, domestic violence? What about secondary education and training, transportation? So we've looked at all these issues, and then at our last meeting we voted on what we think from all the recommendations that came up are the best strategies to really focus on. And we're in the process of finalizing those recommendations that we will release to let folks know here is what we can do together. And some of those, I'll give a little teaser, but the whole, we're looking forward to releasing the whole thing, and folks can look on our website to see that at the Women's Fund, www.womensfundsema.org. And we know early education, the need for more affordable and accessible child care, is one big one for sure. And certainly what we've said around paid family and medical leave as well. There are a lot more, but we think this is really important. A third one I'll mention, because I think it's important to something that you touched on, Stormi, is the need for more coordinated women's advocacy voice in the region. The YW does great work. We do some work. The Commission on the Status of Women does great work, and we all partner on Women's Advocacy Day at the State House every year. But we see there's a need to be even more organized, to be more active, and work together to have even more influence to really make the change that this region needs and deserves.
I'd just add that we also were through UMass, the Public Policy Center, got some great data to work with. So a lot of what we've made in terms of our recommendations or what we've concluded is data driven, but it's also qualitative in the sense that everybody at that table brings something. So when we went through the exercise of voting, we brought your expertise, everybody's expertise, plus we had in the back of our minds this incredibly poignant data on women and the situation in our region. We also had some fantastic speakers that came. We were very fortunate to get really powerful people to really tell us what they think of it as an issue regarding whether it was early ed, whether it was childcare, whether it was workforce development. We had a lot of very good speakers. So it's been an active 9 months.
So there are so many issues, I mean, being part of the task force, you know, and attending many of the meetings that affect women's economic independence. How do you go about, even if you narrow it down to 2 or 3, and we know that they all intertwine, but how do you figure out what is the most important, what's going to have the greatest impact, make the greatest outcomes, and help all women, not just one particular group? How do we figure that out and then go from there? How do we do that?
Well, I think, you know, there's more work to be done. I would say in bringing together, you know, a group that's really focused on these issues, say a kind of a regional women's policy group, that would be a good forum to kind of really keep wrestling with that issue. You know, I personally think, from what I've heard and observed with Lifework participants and in those meetings, that you know, broad access to free and affordable childcare is the most universal issue for all women, whatever your income. If you want to work, if you want to go to school, whether you're married or single, that's such a barrier. So I personally see that as the most cross-cutting issue, but I think there are so many that you probably need a good group of women to kind of keep working on that together.
And I think that's what we're going to propose to do. I mean, you don't want to come up with a bunch of recommendations and put them on the shelf. We want people to buy in, so we need organizations to invest energy, resources to target these things. And childcare, I have to agree with Val, that's just a recurring theme. And I look at other countries and how much better they do than we do in caring for children, young children, so that the mothers, or the parents, can go to school, go to work, whatever else they need to do. So there's not that disconnect. We're not doing a good job with child care, and we as agencies and organizations and individuals, I think going forward will be advocating very strongly for that, and certainly I will as a commissioner on Beacon Hill. That has to happen. We have to give this serious thought.
So how do we get more people to join us in that
question.
effort? We need more voices.
We do.
We don't just need those that are around the table, you know, that do this. How does anyone, man or woman, you know, join us in doing this? How do you advocate? So a lot of people, it's very scary. I know I was, you know, petrified the first time too. And what is that? How do you even go about doing that? And how do we get more people to join us, you know, in this effort?
Right. Well, letters, they can contact us for sure. We're always happy. Advocacy can take so many forms. It's picking up the phone and calling your legislator, and if you don't know who your legislator is, call us, we'll tell you. And you can even start in New Bedford and Fall River in your city councils. You know, so you can start with lawmakers, but we encourage people to pay attention. We're going to be out there. We're going to be doing a series here to, you know, keep people informed. And we invite you to all the meetings if you're around. But I do think advocacy can be as simple as an email, a phone call, a letter, or it can be coming with us up to Beacon Hill when we do events. We welcome anybody's assistance, and you don't have to be a woman either.
Yes, I would say, and I would be really interested, Stormi, in your point of view, as someone who's more recently gotten involved in advocacy. I think a really basic thing people can do is register to vote and vote.
Good point.
You know, because you have the power to vote in people who support these important issues and to vote out people who don't. And I think the second part after voting people in is to develop a relationship with them and make sure they know what you think is important.
That's right.
You hired them. They're working for you. So I think that mindset and the basics of voting are something everyone can do.
Absolutely.
What would you say, Stormi?
We definitely need to reach out to the community more so that people don't feel hopeless, that they know that there's different methods. They can know their rights. And the biggest thing is knowing your rights,
Yes.
knowing how the democracy works. Like people, they're aware of democracy, but being involved is a totally different
Right, so I know, Stormi, this was your first time, you know, working on, you know, these issues and being so involved. So how do we reach out to more men and young men to do this, because we know that it's not just a women's issue, it's a family issue. And we want strong families, and everyone has a mother or a sister, grandmother, or a future partner that's going to face some of these challenges. So how do we get more men involved? So it's not just a women's issue, it's a family issue, it's an economic issue for our community at large as well. How do we get them on board with us to do this work? Any suggestions, any ideas?
Well, I think that we're going to need to put on our thinking caps on that. And when Treasurer Goldberg was down recently for her roundtable, it was conducted at UMass Dartmouth, she was adamant that this is a family issue. The wage gap is a family issue, you know, and when and until people are self-sufficient, it's a drain on the economy. You're not going to see additional revenues coming in to help you build your roads, your bridges, your trains, your schools, and hospitals, everything you need, because you have to support these people. They're not making enough. So we have to do more to reach out to families. And I applaud the treasurer for going out there and making this, definitely through her Office of Economic Empowerment, something that's going to be important.
So final thoughts, last words that you would like everyone to know about this issue. Any thoughts? Maybe one by one, it could go down the line. Sure.
Start. I mean, I would repeat: register to vote and vote. I mean, as the heart of it, and get engaged in your community in these issues in some way. If you care about this, connect with any of our organizations: the YWCA, the Women's Fund of Southeastern Mass, the Bristol County Commission on the Status of Women. Like us on Facebook. Connect to what we're doing, and I think working together, we really have a chance to make some change. So get engaged in civic leadership, local change, state change. As an advocate, even if it's one small thing, it really makes a difference.
Good.
Yeah, every voice matters. Every voice matters, and it doesn't have to be the loudest one in the room to make a difference. So I would say, yes, register to vote, definitely. I would say the Commission on the Status of Women is really pushing for these collaborative approaches to affecting change, and I think that we are starting that ball rolling pretty successfully. We have a long way to go to see everybody economically independent. And until we have economic independence, we cannot thrive as an economy. We cannot thrive as individuals. It's just the way it is. You want to be able to have your job pay enough for you to be able to support your loved ones and even have a little left over maybe, and not have to take advantage of other services, which only drain your economy even further. So we have a lot in front of us, but I think working together and having people join us, whether it's through the Commission or the YWCA or the Women's Fund, we think that your voice, no matter how small, is going to help us make a difference.
Good. Thank you. Stormi?
Like what, adding to what Jean said, definitely your voice makes a difference. Don't be afraid to reach out. You know, get in touch with local agencies such as the Women's Fund, YWCA, Jean Fox, and continue to vote. If you're not registered to vote, definitely register to vote. And just reach out. If you think that you're not going to make a difference, your voice will make a difference.
Thank you, ladies, for joining us on our first show, and
Thank you.
maybe we can have you back to get an update as time goes on to see if we made any progress, on these issues. So thank you for watching Voice of South Coast Women. I'm Gail Fortes from the YWCA. And please call all of our organizations, our website information, and Facebook information will be at the end of the show, and join us next month. We'll be having some different guests to talk about the issues of domestic violence and how that affects women in the South Coast. So thank you and enjoy your day.